Thanks, Oliver, for introducing me, and also thank you for coming here. And I have to tell you in advance, I'm not a programmer and I'm not the software guy, but I've now been busy since more than 20 years with SAP and MHP in the software industry, but I'm coming more from the business point of view. And what I want to show you today is how autonomous mobility will change the urban space and what are the business models behind that. And as you might know, for example, Telenav, which is also, I think, one of the sponsors here of TSM, and they are busy with these technologies, making this happen in the future. So let's see. So what will happen is, here you see some vehicles. They are already existing. These are no design studies. You can buy them. Currently they cost around 100k euro, and you can drive people around autonomously in those vehicles. The problem is this technology is not that mature that you can let them run alone on open streets, like here in front of the office. That would lead to some problems currently, but the technology for that is expected to be mature soon, and then we will see such vehicles much more in urban spaces. The interesting thing about this is, and we are coming from Porsche, as Oliver already told us, you don't see a traditional car brand here. Those vehicles can be produced by nearly everyone. And so those vehicles you see here are coming from little startups. This is a choice of producers from Germany and America. And those producers will disrupt our business models, which we know from the car industry. So we have to think about how do we answer this challenge coming from those vehicles. They're normally 8-seaters, so they can transport people like a taxi, but I'll show you later on, you can run various business models on those vehicles here. They are all run autonomously on level 5 technology, and the drivetrain itself is electric. So no more combustion engines in there. These are all electric vehicles. So when will they come? So we did a little research, and that's what we found out. You see here the major car brands. When do they offer level 5 autonomous technology? But you also see new players in there, like Lyft, like Waymo, like Uber. And these are no car producers, but they will come into the market with level 5 autonomous vehicles like you saw them before. And they will take part of the mobility business in the future. And as you see from the figures down there, they may vary 1 or 2 years plus or minus. But basically, in the early 20s of the upcoming decade, those vehicles will hit the streets and will deliver mobility to the people. Not necessarily, I'm always get asked, because we come from Stuttgart, Porsche comes from Stuttgart, we as well, and Daimler is around there, and the Stuttgart people are all asking us, okay, be honest, they will not come in 2020, those cars to our streets, and that's right, because Germany is very regulated, Germany has very dense traffic, so those vehicles will not come first to Stuttgart, but they will come in other economies, in other geographies first. What you see here is that, especially in Asia and in the Middle East, we will see the first appliances of those autonomous vehicles hitting the streets and doing transportation for people, and not only people. And then later on, they will conquer the streets in the industrialized countries, and latest we expect them to hit the streets in Germany, because Germany is not the most likely country to apply such technologies. As far as Cluj is concerned, I cannot do a prediction, but I would say it's something there in the middle. Maybe we should talk to your mayor if he opens up a lane for autonomous vehicles here in Cluj, so that we can do the transport in those cars in the future here. The most important thing is about those vehicles that you get used to it. And that's then when those vehicles start connecting to your world. which is most consists of programming and creating software, because those vehicles will be booked via a digital channel. You will have an app like you have with Uber already, and then you can book your vehicle and then you enter them, and you will also have digital offerings in the vehicle itself. So it's all about user and customer experience as a whole, and it will have lots of touch points to the software industry. So as you all know, a car currently consists of huge amounts of software, and this amount of software will even increase in the future with autonomous vehicles. Because as you easily can imagine, if you don't have to drive anymore, you have lots of time to do other things. And what do we do when we do other things? We take our smartphone and do digital stuff. And so those vehicles in the future will be packed with digital solutions all around. So that's a typical customer journey which we developed with an agency in Germany. So there you can see what could happen once you have a level 5 autonomous car and drive around, and you see different business model being attached to this. So if you drive around with your autonomous car, you may get a delivery of a parcel directly in your booth. So Amazon contacts the platform your car is running on. The platform tells Amazon, okay, the car is currently at this geography, and then the Amazon delivery service and your car meet at some point, and then they put the parcel in your booth or hand it over directly while you're running around the city, and do not have to come to your home anymore. Second case may be you work in the car. You can easily imagine that, and those screens have also already been developed, that you can use the windscreen as projection layer, and then you can do presentations on your windscreen, because you don't need to drive anymore, the car's doing the rest. You just work, do Skype sessions, and do presentations in your car or business meetings. And so you can imagine quite a lot of business cases happening in those cars where everyone will participate but the automotive industry. And that's a big challenge for the automotive industry, to tackle those challenges which are coming from the digital space. In the background, it will be all handled via digital platforms. They will rule the business, and I think we're going also to talk about that a little bit later in the panel, what the role of those digital platforms will be. And I can tell you it will be a very dominant role in the whole play of mobility and how it will be consumed in the future. So the automotive industry is currently taking the challenge, and to give you an idea, because all the people say, okay, autonomous driving, that's quite far away, and you will never see a Volkswagen or a Mercedes driving around in a form like you have seen here. I can tell you that Mercedes-Benz announced just some weeks ago that they will create a new factory directly in Stuttgart producing that kind of vehicles you saw in the beginning. Because they now understood, okay, we are facing challenges, and those challenges are called Uber, Amazon, and also the Chinese equivalents like Alibaba and Tencent, and they are hitting the mobility market, and they want to kind of disrupt the business of the automotive industry. So automotive industry is gearing up, is gaining speed, and we will see in, I think, 2 to 4 years the first autonomous shuttles from classical OEMs on the streets as well. And they will be organized and run on platforms. And those platforms deliver navigation, they deliver everything that is needed to drive autonomously. They will also deliver the way you're doing business with your autonomous vehicle in the future. So this all goes across platforms. And in terms of business case, everyone asks, okay, what is the business behind those new technologies and running, for example, parcel delivery in the car or doing presentations and stuff like that? And to give you an idea, we scanned all the current studies which are on the market from McKinsey & Co. And they tell basically roughly the same, that in the future, 70% of the revenue made in mobility will be done by value-added services and no more by mobility. So currently, if you're like us, an OEM, and you produce cars, you make 100% of your revenue with producing cars and delivering or giving the people mobility. In the future, this share of just getting people from A to B will decrease to 30% of the whole revenue stream, which is made in those vehicles. And 70% roughly is made by value-added services. And all of those services run across digital channels. And that's your opportunity here to participate in this business. Think this business, adopt it, make it yours, and then you have a big chance to further grow here also in Cluj. I'm delivering solutions for such autonomous vehicles. That's it. Thank you very much.
If you have any questions. How do you see this? How do you see? You just mentioned that adoption of the autonomous car will be 2022. Do you think will be and at the level will have autonomous level 5, or do you see?
Yes.
And but before this, let's say in 2020, do you think we'll have in controlled spaces also autonomous cars?
If you go to California, there are already level 5 autonomous enabled cars allowed on the streets, with the only restriction that they still need a steering wheel and a steward. They call it a steward who assists the autonomous drive, who can interfere if needed. But you can look that up in the internet. The state of California regularly issues statistics on how many cars are operated level 5 autonomously on Californian streets, and how often the steward had to interfere while the car was driving, because they are not perfect. The systems get trained with artificial intelligence, and they need to have a lot of training. And I think in California the benchmark is they need to collect 230 million kilometers driven level 5 with a certain KPI on the interferences. And then those cars will be allowed to drive without steering wheel and without steward. And they are working on that. And Telenav, for example, is one of the big players in that game. Telenav even has more cars on the streets in California than Google has currently.
Oh, I try actually to bring today Philip Kanda, who's running the Romanian Telenav, but he was not in Cluj, so maybe next time. Okay. Thanks, Marcus. Okay, we have a question.
Considering that you said cars are getting more and more intelligent, how do you see the current technology threats like hacking and the current scandal with the Facebook? I forget the name right now.
With Cambridge Analytica, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Security is one of the top challenges for this new technology. The one thing is getting those cars running autonomously, and the second big challenge is exactly that they don't get hacked. And especially in Israel, there are lots of startups taking care of this. I always already talked to several companies who just have the aim to make those cars unhackable. And in the end, this car is connected. It has a lot of IoT devices in it, so it is vulnerable, and you need to make it as safe as possible. You will never have a 100% safety, but the promise behind autonomous driving, or one of the promises behind that, is that the number of fatalities in traffic will be reduced by roughly 90%. And this other 10% mean something can happen, and that's also hacking, for example. But there is huge amounts of money currently invested in developing the security systems to make those cars secure.
Thank you, Marcus. You'll be able to ask more questions to the panel.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.